Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of the MMA webinar series sponsored by Neustar entitled Why Industry Matters, Why Identity Matters, How to Maximize Marketing ROI in a Multi-Screen World. I'm Leo Scullin, and I'll be taking you through the opening section of this presentation, helping moderate questions at the end. First, about the MMA. We are an 800-member organization serving the mobile marketing industry around the world. We have members in 800 members in nearly 50 countries, and our mission is to accelerate the transformation and innovation of marketing through mobile, driving business growth with closer and stronger consumer engagement. We anchor our mission against 4 core pillars: cultivating inspiration among chief marketers, building capabilities for success among them and their staff, helping them demonstrate measurement and impact, and advocating with our partners and our members to protect the mobile marketing industry. The MMA has many members from around the world, from brands to media sellers to media buyers to tech enablers. They include such companies as Dunkin' Brands, Yahoo, Toys R Us, Motorola, MasterCard, Marriott, American Express, Coca-Cola, Campbell's, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Mondelez, P&G, and many, many more. Today's presenters, first up will be Lisa Peterson, Director of Market Development, Mobile Marketing and Analytics at Neustar. He'll be followed by Emily Del Greco, the VP of Sales at Adelphic. And as I said, I'm Leo Scullin. I'm the head of Global Industry Initiatives at the Mobile Marketing Association here in New York. We have a control panel on the right that you can click onto and ask questions. We will review those and ask a few toward the end. You also can tweet about this by sharing the insights at hashtag MMAWeb or hashtag Identity Matters. Without further ado, let me introduce Lisa Peterson from Neustar. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, thank you, Leo, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, where we will be sharing our thoughts on how marketers can maximize their ROI as more consumers access content and interact with their favorite brands across multiple devices. Sorry about that. Neustar is a provider of data and analytics solutions that enable marketers to better understand and reach their customers. Our solutions are cloud-based, and where we excel is in our ability to provide data in real-time environments to support real-time marketing decisions. We help advertisers build a holistic view of their consumers across multiple channels, enabling them to create more effective personalized marketing programs. Our company is publicly traded, and at the core, we are a big data company. Neustar has been a provider of neutral registry solutions to facilitate communications across telecom and internet ecosystems for nearly 20 years. This is in addition to the marketing and analytics solutions we provide. At the core of our infrastructure is our ability and our competency in managing very large, authoritative, and sensitive data sets across complex ecosystems. And this has been leveraged throughout our marketing and analytics solutions. So consumers are spending more time on their devices. 90% of our time is spent interacting with different screens, which is making it harder for marketers to have a holistic view of their customers. It's becoming more complex than ever. As you can see, households average 5.7 devices, and this number is only growing as more and more things get connected. On average, we're spending 4.4 hours of our leisure time each day in front of screens. So imagine now the marketer trying to understand what their consumer likes and what content they're engaging with, but having to put together the journey across these multiple screens. 84% of the time, people are having their mobile phones on, using their mobile phones while they're watching TV. And of course, mobile consumers are getting more demanding. They want what they want, when they want, how they want it, and where they want it. It's all about relevancy, urgency, efficiency, and getting value. Very familiar, I'm sure many of you are, with Uber This is the Uber age, and we are seeing more and more Uber-like applications. I just saw one the other day, I think it was on the Today Show, where it was instant beauty on demand, and a team of beauticians came to your house by literally you sending a message through their application. So the fact is, consumers are expecting very relevant engagements. Neustar conducted a consumer study recently, and we were amazed to find that 83% of consumers expect marketers to know them as they interact across their channels and their devices. They expect it. 46% purchase more when they receive personalized offers, and 51% of millennials are willing to share their personal information as long as they're getting something in return. We were amazed at these stats. But then we were also somewhat disappointed to find in our study with the Mobile Marketing Association at the end of last year that marketers are really struggling to deliver relevant engagements on mobile. So for a channel that holds the promise of one-to-one consumer engagement and interactions, marketers are really falling short of being able to deliver those personalized experiences. 38% cite they can't target their consumer accurately on mobile. 62% are saying they don't even use data to personalize, and 73% can't link data to provide a holistic view of their customers. We see this as, while we saw it as disappointing, we also saw it as an opportunity. And now we're going to talk to you about why identity matters, and as an industry, it's time to get this right. So the dilemma is solving the person to the device identity puzzle. In mobile, there's a lack of universal identity and standards. Cookies are not reliable on mobile the way that they've been leveraged and relied upon in the desktop world. This is because 86% of the time, consumers are in mobile apps. So the whole world, the whole ecosystem in mobile is completely different. We have different multiple platforms to consider, multiple channels in a single device, apps, web, voice, and text. And also, we all have to be mindful of safeguarding the consumer experience and ensuring their personal information is safeguarded and that there's always opt-in, opt-out policies around that on mobile. Oops, I think I just went backwards. So let's talk about identity. We have a story to tell here about Joe. With Joe, he is an avid sports enthusiast who only watches sport. He not only watches sports, but he also plays fantasy sports. And he never won bragging rights with his buddies because he has never won his league. And a lot of us know the humiliation that comes with that. So Joe is thinking about buying a new tablet so he can stay on top of all of the sports news and scores, even when he's on the go with his family. He is convinced that this tablet is going to make him a champion. So it's Friday, and the week is winding down. But before heading home for the weekend, he starts a search on tablets. He realizes it's getting late in the day and gets on the road to avoid being late for family movie night. I have those on Fridays. On Sunday, while getting ready to set his lineup for his fantasy team, Joe is retargeted with an ad for tablets from his website that he visited on Friday. And he notices that the ad and makes a mental note to visit the retailer's website after submitting his lineup. Before setting up to watch the games, Joe visits the retailer's site and places his tablet in the shopping cart, but then he gets distracted again by his family and forgets to complete the transaction. So during his lunch break, The next day he goes to the store and he tries a few tablets. He finds his tablet, of course, and of course it is the model he had chosen all along. Joe decides not to buy the tablet on the spot, but to hunt for the best deal online over the next couple of days. Yes, he's a cheapskate, but since Joe is eyeing a new TV soon, he gives the rep his contact information for future offers from the store. Unknown to Joe, the rep also updates Joe's customer record and his tablet preference. So now he's back at home, lounging out on his couch, and he's doing some research for his fantasy lineup. At that point, he's targeted on his mobile device by the same retailer he had visited earlier with a highly relevant ad for 10% off the exact model he had chosen at the store. So he can wait no longer. He clicks to call from his device, gets to the call center agent, who sees his profile and realizes that he's likely to be a gadget enthusiast. So she offers Joe the Bluetooth keyboard, and then Joe is very happy. And that is how the journey across the purchase path works on mobile. And you can see how Joe was influenced every step of the way. So when we break down identity, and that's the ultimate experience I think consumers are striving for as well as marketers. So when we talk about identity, we break it down into 3 A's to remember: accuracy, attributes, and analytics. With accuracy, we're talking about authoritative identity data that must be multi-sourced and continuously refreshed and verified. It starts there. And then attributes add meaning to identity, having the very granular visibility, understanding the consumer's demographics, their psychographics, their product preferences, their shopping habits, their geographies of preference and where they live, and then rounding that out with analytics. So back to some of the challenges we saw in mobile, the need to measure is becoming increasingly important if advertising spend is going to shift into mobile. So we're kind of past that test and trial mode. Now we have to prove that this is all working. So let's talk about accuracy first in our take on accuracy. So why is it so difficult to authoritatively identify? Well, did you know that 75 million consumers change their phone carriers every year? 45 million consumers change part of their contact information. 16 million consumers relocate, and 2.1 million people legally change their names. That's a lot of changes to take place in 1 year. And additionally, the amount of publicly available data to verify, and I'm talking about accurate, authoritative data that is publicly available, not everything that's out on the social sites, that information has declined from 78 to 30% just since 2000. And then finally, the number of channels and devices, as we described before, that consumers are using continues to grow exponentially, increasing the complexity of the touch points marketers have to deal with throughout the customer journey. So here's an example of a bad identity experience going back to Joe. We found this real-life experience from the National Alliance of Male Executives. And the first thing you see here, Joe's getting an email from this association, and right in the beginning, it starts off the bat with a very bad experience by calling him Nicole. So this is a sign of what a bad identity experience looks like, and why it's important to make sure in your automated systems that those authoritative identities are set. And this is one we took some liberties with, but could you imagine what this older couple reading their tablet is thinking if they were to get presented with a very wrong advertisement. It's important to know who's behind the device. I think this sums it all up. So in the area of mobile identity, there are different methods emerging. There are deterministic methods, which are linking very precisely, trying to match people to devices. There's the Google, Facebook, I just put them in a different category, login data, where you know the person because they've logged into an application or a website. And then there's probabilistic. Probabilistic technologies are a little less precise, but they're tending to be higher scale because they're based on algorithmic matching of devices to cookies and other device data exhaust, looking for patterns across devices to detect that it's probably the same person on each device. They're looking at behavioral and connection patterns. And so those tend to scale very well, but also could be less accurate. So Neustar is in the middle of these. Neustar is leveraging authoritative, verified offline data, and that includes 220 million people tied to 120 million households, and we're also mapping that data to devices. And back to the authoritative nature of the data that we provide, we are continuously updating that repository. We're corroborating that repository. We are getting real-time feeds of data from over 250 data sources. So we can tell good quality from bad quality data. And that's just showing where we sit when we look at all of these different methods that are emerging now in the marketplace. So the key takeaway here is accuracy requires authoritative identity. Now let's talk about the next A, why attributes matter. So what do you really know about your mobile consumers? Some things you may know do come from the device itself, device type, the carrier type, the mobile location of the person, their app behaviors, how frequently they use the apps, what type of apps they use. But then to round that out, you really need to deliver, to deliver relevant experiences, you really need to round that out with other information, such as the consumer demographics, their shopping habits, their lifestyles and stages, their product preferences. So only until you get the authoritative identity data that we just talked about right, can you layer on these attributes. So let me give you an example of what I mean by understanding additional attributes. Let's take Joe again. So in analyzing audiences that look like Joe and other fantasy football players, we found that fantasy football players really like gadgets. Their friends ask them first for advice when they go out and buy electronics. They use their phones primarily for downloading video, and their most recent camera cost over $700. We also found they love wings. Their top dining preferences are Hooters and Buffalo Wild Wings, followed by Cheesecake Factory, Chili's, and Outback. And they own luxury cars. Their top vehicle was Lexus, followed by BMW. So we can see interesting correlations and other characteristics fantasy football players have by adding in those attributes. And then that can create, again, the ultimate experience where Joe is very happy now because he does like wings to be receiving that coupon from Hooters for 10 wings free. So Neustar offers real-time audience targeting solutions to enable these ultimate experiences. We talked about the different data attributes we provide. We can target audiences on key advertiser categories such as auto, political, dining and entertainment. And then we also work with our advertising customers to leverage their own segments and can help them find their own customer segments in the online world and on mobile. So the key takeaway here is that attributes add meaning to identity. Okay, and last, let's talk about analytics and why they matter. So right away, the thought here is you can't monetize what you can't measure. And back to marketers being hesitant to shift their spend to mobile, it won't happen until they can actually see the performance of their advertising. I just took this quote from someone who pioneered advertising and marketing throughout the 1800s, John Wanamaker. Half the money I spent on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half. Well, this seems to resonate very well with the marketers that we surveyed, who also said the same thing. 46% said they can't measure effectively. So what are we doing about this? We have measurement tools that have worked for years in the online space. Now we're taking those to mobile. The key takeaway here is we need to be able to do this across channel and across devices. We need to give ads the proper attribution as they're presented across the journey. So taking Joe as the example, he had an ad clearly presented that helped influence his next behavior, which ultimately drove him to make the call and make the purchase. So it's putting that holistic picture together and being able to show the results. Our analytics framework, solutions ride on top of our identity framework that we just discussed. So it's really important, we believe, to have that same identity that's used for targeting to also underpin the analytics solutions. So the key takeaway here is a single common identity framework to underpin targeting and measurement capabilities. And this is what is needed in the market to unleash the promise of mobile and that ultimate experience that we talked about, where marketers can now leverage their third-party data, their first-party data, connected across the journey to purchase across their consumers, so they have a holistic view and be able to measure and optimize as the consumer moves across their journey. So our solution is called Neustar Platform 1. And I will now hand it over to Emily from Adelphic, who will show some real-life examples of how this is working for them.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Del Greco. I lead the sales team at Adelphic. Adelphic is a fully RTB-enabled mobile demand-side platform. What that means is we have an enterprise software product that is used by all of the largest buyers of programmatic media in the United States right now to purchase impressions in the mobile environment. So that means smartphones and tablets across both the mobile web and mobile app environments. There are 4 key elements to our product. One, the campaign management portal. This is where folks can log in and manage large numbers of campaigns, everything from forecasting and estimating to purchasing the campaign itself to reporting and analytics. We have a host of inventory and data integrations. Neustar has been one of these integrations that has proven very valuable to our customer set. We have an Adelphic Audience Cube. So this is our proprietary user database where we link various attributes about a given user to a single statistical identifier that we call the A tag. So that's where a lot of our audience intelligence lives. And we also have a predictive performance engine. This is our RTB bidder that's designed to deliver the most efficient pricing to help advertisers reach the right person with the right ad at the right time. So just a look here at some of the inventory sources that we're integrated with, and I think looking at the inventory really kind of lays this up nicely to how the audience can be so valuable. When you have such a vast source of inventory, standard media, rich media, video, private marketplace, and even native ads, having a partner like Neustar layer an additional audience intelligence on top of that allows for extremely interesting buying. And I'll tell you a few examples about that. So the partnership with Neustar has allowed our buyers to harness a wide variety of data. You know, we've talked about demographics, psychographics, behavioral, intention data, all of these things which traditionally are thought of as impossible to access in mobile have become part of our product thanks to this partnership with Neustar. And we see buyers every day looking to use those Neustar insights in order to power a more intelligent and more targeted media buy. So a couple of use cases for you. We've worked with a number of retailers. Use case that came up recently was a retailer who was attempting to do conquesting from a competitor. That is a retailer who was looking to find insights of people who frequently shopped her competitor, her largest competitor. And in doing so, was hoping to convince those buyers to come and visit her retail location. So thanks to Neustar, the advertiser in this case accessed a segment called shopped, let's call it XX. It could be any retailer that's listed in Neustar 1 to 2 times in the last 4 weeks. That's a very precise measurement. With the Adelphic platform, the buyer took that data and used it to purchase 15-second mobile pre-roll ads on iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus. The idea there was that this is somewhat of a more affluent retailer, and they were hoping to target a specific type of buyer, and those that have the newest iPhone fell in the category that they wanted. So they combined that ad format with the device-level targeting with the Neustar elements that are listed there, and the result is that Neustar ended up driving an 11% higher video completion rate than all other targeting. And any of you have experience in trying to drive high completion rates in video, particularly in mobile video, will understand that's a significant achievement. The other use case that we have is from a satellite TV provider, and they are attempting to use mobile to convert cable customers to use their satellite product. So using Neustar, they were able to get very granular data and actually target customers who were known to have Comcast and Time Warner. And in this case, they targeted the households that are set up via Comcast and Time Warner. It was a very powerful asset for them. They then used our platform to serve banner ads across mobile web and mobile app, and targeted a host of elements that created this custom segment. And the results were that Neustar targeting drove 138% click-through rate, higher click-through rate than contextual targeting. And so what we see is generally the value add here is that audience insight, which can be applied, interestingly, at scale. I know there's a lot of perception that third-party data does not operate effectively in the mobile environment because of a lack of a cookie. Neustar is not restricted by that. So in both of these campaigns, they had scale that went into the 6 figures in a single month. So the scale is definitely there for these types of campaigns. One of the other things that I know in looking at some of the poll questions that comes up a lot with mobile is, I really can't measure it in a way that's effective for me, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One of the things we strive at Adelphic in being a platform technology is to have the best integration partners and to really think of an end-to-end campaign. So that planning to buying to measurement. So when it comes to measurement, some of the tools that we have available within the platform to help our advertisers understand the efficacy of their buys are the things that are laid out here. So one is location-based attribution. So I can purchase a campaign using Neustar data or any campaign at all and understand if the users who saw those ads on mobile devices actually walked into my store or onto the lot of my auto dealership. It is a very dynamic, very new form of attribution that is very unique to mobile, and we're seeing it take off and skyrocket in its usage because it's applicable to a lot of different buyer sets. We can support rich media engagement, so we work with a number of rich media providers and can optimize campaigns towards different rich media efforts. We can also measure in-app attribution. So can we or have we successfully drove a user who was targeted using Neustar data or again any data to download a particular app or to engage in a particular app. And then finally, some of the stuff that we're very much looking forward to next year is the work that we're kicking off with Neustar in both cross-channel and closed-loop measurement. So cross-channel will enable our buyers to upload offline CRM data and target users where they have a terrestrial address or an email and serve ads to them in the mobile environment in both web and app. And then the closed-loop measurement speaks more to this attribution idea. Using Neustar as a partner here, our buyers can evaluate whether or not the campaigns they ran in mobile drove users to make a purchase offline in store. And that is also very, very powerful, and I think takes the idea of mobile measurement to the next level. So we've moved ahead here, and we're at the last slide. You can see the website for Neustar, of course, and our website. And I know we have time for Q&A. And as I think Leo said, everybody will be receiving the presentation.
So thank you, Emily, and thank you, Lisa. There is a couple of questions that are pretty much on point to what you've been talking about, Emily. One participant said, can you provide some context on scale for the Adelphic campaign examples? For example, overlaying your audience targeting on targeting just iPhone sounds limiting. iPhone 6 sounds limiting. Could you talk to that a little bit?
Certainly. I think that, as with anything, and I come from a more desktop background before my time at Adelphic, you never want to over-target simply because it's not going to yield the results that you're looking for. And Neustar is no different. What I would say is, of all the data partners that we're integrated with, let me put it this way, with all the behavioral and demographic partners we're integrated with, none of them scale in the same way that Neustar does. So we have an extremely solid base upon which to build a campaign. So if we're starting with a Neustar segment, device level targeting is not going to restrict scale dramatically. It really does depend upon the KPI, but there are enough iPhone 6 and 6 Plus users out there that you can have decent scale. And importantly, even though the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus are devices, for this advertiser, they thought of that device as an audience signal, and they interpreted it as a signal of affluence. So it was interesting to see how a device attribute was really thought of as audience. But to add a little bit more color to this, we often see campaigns that are running on Neustar plus device type or Neustar plus DMA. We, as part of our business, we're always coaching on how to get the most out of the platform. So we never recommend over-targeting, but I would just say you have a very strong base with most Neustar segments to work with.
Okay. There's a question that's come up in a couple of different ways from members of the audience. It has to do with, identifying the mobile device. How does Adelphic match Neustar data to mobile devices, and what does Adelphic do to, you come up with a universal device ID, or you're using certain techniques to track and not identify individual devices or users?
So can I answer? I'll answer the first part, and then Emily, if you could do the second part. So the first part on how we're mapping data. So we're establishing common linkages between our data sets, and those can range from opted-in email addresses to more probabilistic technologies such as understanding the fixed IP and household level data. So we use a range of match keys to make our segments available on the Adelphic device IDs. And then Emily, I think there were some more questions. What was the next?
Well, there's a couple. One, what does Adelphic use for universal device ID? But more pertinently, it says, what does Adelphic do the location-based attribution, and what are your sources for the location data?
I see. So they're kind of two separate questions. I would say, we match differently with each of our data partners. With Neustar, we rely a lot upon household IP address, although we do also match on device IDs. So it really depends. Household IP address is a particularly good one since so much of mobile activity happens on Wi-Fi. So that actually is very effective, but we do rely on device IDs as well. As for the location-based attribution, we're not in the attribution business today, so we rely on a couple of partners. One is Placed, the other is Ninth Decimal. One uses a panel-based approach, and the other uses actual device ID data to track the location behaviors. So that is information that is provided, and analysis that is provided by those partners who are integrated with our platform to get the data they need to provide those services.
Well, what are the device IDs? How are you getting that information? Is that something that, I guess that's a question that keeps gets repeated from one of our audience members.
So being that we're a demand-side platform and we're sitting on top of 18 exchanges, we're processing terabytes of information in a single day. And that data, many of the bid requests coming from these exchanges do have device IDs associated with it. So when we process that data, we will then append a device ID to an Adelphic ID. And the Adelphic ID, that A tag, is our statistical identifier that houses not just the device ID, which in and of itself might not be so interesting, but also these other attributes that we observe over time. So that's generally where the data is coming from.
Okay, very good answer. Very good answer. Good. Well, I think that's pretty much addressing most of the questions we've had. I think there's one more for Neustar. How does Neustar identify different devices as the same person? And is it only in the U.S. or is it a global database that you focus on?
So we are looking to expand internationally, but we're still kind of in our phase 1 build out of this, quite honestly. So it's available right now in the U.S. Okay. And what was the other part of the question?
Let me see here. How does Neustar identify different devices as the same person?
How does Neustar identify different devices of this?
Yeah,
so we are able right now at this point in time, we're bringing the devices into the household. So the household is defining the attributes, and the way we talk to that is usually the household making decisions on what they decide to spend. We are going to be introducing more individual level data very near term. We haven't publicly announced it yet. So. I can't say anything about that.
Okay, we won't ask any more questions about that.
Okay.
Okay, well, look, I want to thank the audience. In particular, I want to thank our presenters, Lisa and Emily. Again, for more information, please go to neustar.biz or adelphic.com to find out more about our sponsor companies and our participants. I want to give everybody a little heads up. We have 2 more webinars this year. Next Wednesday is, actually next Tuesday, Mobile Momentum, Success and Strategy for Mobile Video Campaigns. And then a very exciting one on the 16th, the new mobile, how the Internet of Things is changing everything. And that's going to be presented by Richard Ting, who is the co-chair of our Internet of Things Incubation Council. And that should be a very interesting presentation. We also have upcoming events in Argentina, New York, Brazil, Singapore, and London. And if you go to our website, you'll see all sorts of things you can sign up for, learn more about what we're doing, and view other webinars and white papers that have been available. So again, thank you, Neustar, for the sponsored webinar today, and thanks our guests from Adelphic. And thank you all for coming. Have a pleasant day, and see you next time.